Hello, welcome back to The Road to Episode 9, my ongoing series where I chart the road to the release of Star Wars Episode 9 in December 2019, and I can only hope that in January of 2020, wow, we won't be talking about what Mark Hamill thinks about Star Wars Episode 9. I wanted to just make a separate video about this I don't call it an issue, but this topic that has arisen since the release of The Last Jedi. A lot of people were not happy with The Last Jedi, a lot of people were disappointed in The Last Jedi, and a lot of people were very angry about The Last Jedi, and the majority of this comes from Luke Skywalker's character and what was done with him in the film. I've already talked about my thoughts on it and how much I love what they did, and I love the risks that they took. And if you're still feeling a little bit confused about it or betrayed by it, whatever, and you're not being particularly angry about it, but you want something to explain to you why it might be a good thing, I highly recommend. I'll try to remember to link it down below in the description of this video. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is a good friend of Rian Johnson, he admits that and admits that he's biased, but nevertheless, he was in The Last Jedi and in every film Rian Johnson has directed. He wrote this really good article about Luke Skywalker and how he feels about the character and how it's portrayed and how it might be a good thing and why it might be a good thing that we're seeing a film from this company, this big evil corporation that, you know, very much should, to make more money, be taking safer chances, didn't take the safe chance with Rian Johnson's take on Luke Skywalker and the Star Wars sequel trilogy, the way that it's going and so on. Anyway, so that's that. People were annoyed, people were upset by Luke not being their Luke anymore. Hashtag not my Luke. And so people then took to Mark Hamill as someone to kind of validate their opinion. And it's something that has kind of really bothered me. I know it shouldn't really, but it's just something that I think is so unnecessary. Now, Mark Hamill, since pretty much the beginning of the the promotional campaign, of The Last Jedi, has said, and he said this so many times now, it almost feels like it's rehearsed. I suppose it is in some sense, but he has always said, when asked, what did you think about the script when you read it? He said, I told Rian Johnson I fundamentally disagree with everything you've written about my character. Now that I've got that off my chest, let me try and do this the best I can for you. And plenty of people online have been posting this quote, been posting many quotes, been posting videos, editing videos, and taking out the complete context of those videos, where Mark Hamill would say, I didn't agree with Rian Johnson, and then they'll cut the clip off before he says, but then I realized I was wrong. We're talking about a Mark Hamill who 2 years ago was reading their script and had a disagreement about it, had this feeling where it didn't feel right to him, and so they had to hash it out. And ultimately, Rian Johnson is the writer and director of the film. It's his film. I mean, we love Mark Hamill. I love him. He's one of my favorite people in the world. But he isn't making these movies. He's the actor whose job it is to fulfill what he's been given. Now, a lot of people do. I mean, obviously, he's one of those guys who is so integral to the Star Wars universe from day one. I mean, he is one of the biggest characters and one of the biggest kind of legacy holders of this whole thing. So I think people do feel like he has a right in saying what should happen. But I mean, many years ago, he always thought that Luke should have gone to the dark side as well. That was one of his kind of big things that he hoped would happen in the future. But the thing that kind of really threw a spanner into the works is when people were picking up on these quotes, picking up on these things where Mark was saying, I fundamentally disagreed with everything Rian did with this movie, and they would cut that clip off and they use it as a soundbite and say, Mark Hamill hates The Last Jedi. So Mark tweeted about this. I want to go into what he said because I find it quite interesting how this has evolved. First of all, he said, I regret voicing my doubts and insecurities in public. Creative differences are a common element of any project but usually remain private. All I wanted was to make a good movie. I got more than that. Rian Johnson made an all-time great one. And then one of his famous alliteration-filled hashtags, hashtag humbled Hamill. Okay, so there we go. That's him saying, look, I was insecure about it to begin with, but ultimately we made a great film and I'm really happy with it. People did not accept this because they were leaning on his kind of apparent disapproval with the film as their crutch to, to kind of validate their own opinion. And so they're like, oh, he was paid by Disney to say this. Oh, look, they're paying him off. They're telling him to say this. Damage control. So he replied to that and said, I'm really enjoying the conversations about The Last Jedi, both pro and con. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but let me make this perfectly clear. Neither Disney or Lucasfilm has complained or told me what to say, ever. Period. End of story. And then people said, well, Disney clearly told him to say that. And that was crazy. And then there was this clip of Mark Hamill during a Q&A session with some of the cast and Rian Johnson, and the shot is of him sitting next to Rian Johnson. Ryan's answering a question, and Mark's just kind of like this. You know, he looks kind of crestfallen. So much like the sad Ben Affleck thing, people took that clip, they sad Mark Hamill, they put the kind of, you know, hello darkness my old friend, they put the Simon and Garfunkel underneath there, and they kind of zoomed in on his face and then used clips of him saying, I fundamentally disagreed with all this, Luke wouldn't do this, you know, that he's a different character now and all this kind of stuff. Taking all that stuff out of context and then using that clip. Now, you know, some people, you know, just loved that this really supported their hate of The Last Jedi. Oh yes, he hates it too, see, look. And then this conspiracy theory started where apparently Mark Hamill had never seen The Last Jedi until they premiered it, and he didn't even know that Luke died, and that he was completely blindsided by this, and that's why he had that look on his face. Now, if you watch the full panel, he's joking around throughout it and so on, and in that one moment, yes, he does look sad and crestfallen, but take into account that this guy is in his 60s and is doing this whirlwind worldwide media tour, answering the same questions over and over and over again. He's probably quite tired. Regardless, you know, if you actually watch the full interviews and see his demeanor, see his personality, see the way he's acting, the way he appears to be feeling, then you can kind of guess that he isn't, you know, completely devastated by what happened in the film. That's just the way it is. So again, this big kind of theory that he'd never seen the film and that Disney kind of screwed him over, you know, Rian Johnson screwed him over, he had to reply to this too. He said the idea that anything was revealed last minute at the premiere is ridiculous and one of the nuttiest lies I've ever seen on social media. It was all in the script from day one. Disney are paying him to say this. Like, I can't believe the level of just absolute committed denial to the people who still think that he's being paid off to say these things. Right, and again, another thing he said, this is my favourite response to the whole, you know, Mark never knew about the ending until he saw the film. He said, amazing, and because someone tweeted it to him. He says, amazing, every word in that tweet is wrong. No wonder they have anonymous in their title. I'd want to remain anonymous too if I was spewing complete bullshit as well. Disney angered, final scene a surprise to me, and then he put loads of ha ha ha, and then hashtag what a load of Sith. So, I mean, I just had to comment on it because I thought it was such a ridiculous shitstorm of denial to me. You know, if you don't like what happened with Luke Skywalker, that is cool. That's your opinion. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, and people who did like what happened, or think that it was good that it happened, or think that it was the right way to go with the story, we can try and defend it, or we can try to, you know, tell you why we think it is a good move and so on. But I mean, ultimately, it's your opinion, and that is fine. But it bothers me when people go to such lengths, and it's that YouTube channel, Jar Jar Abrams, that keeps getting put in everyone's recommended feeds, of just posting these videos saying it's Last Jedi is a load of shit, and here's why. Mark Hamill's saying that, you know, da 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 da, and they just, again, it's in this climate of fake news. Things taken out of context. I mean, it's been done since the beginning of news, basically. You know, to get that scoop. That's what they want. They want those clicks. And I'm as guilty as anyone for clicking on them to see, alright, let's see what Mark Hamill has to say, and let's see how much you didn't include. And then I'll go and find the real video and say, oh yeah, at the end of the clip he does say, you know, Luke would have been strong. Luke wouldn't have turned his back on everyone. He would have been a Jedi, and he would have got back, and he would have helped everyone. And at the end of the clip he says, but we've already seen that, you know. So again, and I realised I was wrong. Things like that. Now, is it possible that Mark Hamill isn't completely happy with the way it got? Of course it is. But you know, I think that's the whole kind of the Disney thing, man. It's such a people are so insecure about it. They feel like now that Disney owns Star Wars, that it's this big conglomerate thing. Now it is, you know, it is. I mean, if you look at the whole the Porg debate, right? The whole, oh, Porgs have been put into the movie just to sell toys. No, they haven't. You know, if you want to be that cynical, fine, but Porgs were in the movie because when they went to that island, in Ireland, they saw that there were these puffins. these birds that are natural to the island. So in the shots of they filmed of the movie, there are these birds flying around. I mean, in the Force Awakens. So Rian Johnson was like, right, what's the Star Wars version of that? So they created this version of a bird that could be on this island, this kind of Star Wars creature, which is what these films are all about, creatures in different worlds. Then he put them into the film in a comic relief form, which I feel like you need in a film that deals with things in The Last Jedi that do get very dark. I appreciate the kind of balance of having humor and so on. Now, the humor doesn't work for some people, that's fine. So for me, the Porgs were created because they were put into the film to be, you know, a Star Wars creature. But do Disney, you know, feel happy with the fact that they have something cute and cuddly to market? Of course they do. You know, but the idea that Disney, like, you need to create this thing so we can sell more toys, you know. No, they're going to take what they can get and they're going to capitalize in a big bad way because they want to make their money back, of course. I think they already have at this point the 4 point whatever billion it was that they paid George Lucas for the whole rights to Star Wars and Lucasfilm. But again, I feel like people just get a little bit too kind of tinfoil hat about Disney and, oh, Disney are paying off Mark Hamill. Disney were hiding the ending of the film from him. It's like, guys, if you didn't like the film, that's fine, that's on you, but I feel like it's stupid to kind of look at these out of context clips and quotes without looking at the full story and thinking, yes, this validates my opinion. He doesn't like it either. You know, yes, Mark, tell it like it is. You know, he knows, he understands. I saw a clip of Ewan McGregor after he won the Golden Globe a couple of weeks ago. They said, you know, what would you think about doing Star Wars? He's like, yeah, I've heard nothing, I'd like to do it, that's all I can say. He's like, oh, I saw the new one, by the way, The Last Jedi, I thought it was beautiful. You know, and then immediately all comments like, oh, he's been paid off by Disney to say that. You can tell he doesn't mean it. You know, oh, Ewan and Mark telling it like it is. You can tell, you know, they're showing us that they don't really care. And it's like, what are you fucking talking about? All this effort, all this energy to kind of, again, validate your own insecurities about it just seems very strange to me. That's my thoughts on it. I had to cover it because I feel like it has been a big part of the whole Last Jedi aftermath, was this whole Mark Hamill hates The Last Jedi thing. The idea that he hates it is complete and utter bullshit to me. You know, is he 100% in love with it and happy with it? I don't know. But I feel like, you know, as an actor, and seeing how he gave pretty much his best performance, and it gave him so much more to work with than if he'd just been the hero again, you know, for the whole film, I think he'd have to be overjoyed, you know, because that's a memorable performance that, to me, will always be a shining moment in his career. So he got that, and he's going to get more with Episode 9, no doubt. So there it is. That's my thoughts on that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.